Hello everyone, my name is Yoko. On this channel, I will be disseminating information that I have collected in English, as I feel that the information that is happening in China is often not accurately conveyed to countries other than China. We obtain information from multiple media sources, so we would be happy if you could give us your opinions on the content of the video in the comments. Also, my native language is not English, so I use an AI speaker to create audio to convey information correctly. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel and support us. This time, I will talk about real estate agents in China. It's not about Evergrande Group, it's not about Country Garden. In terms of the size of the company, it is smaller than Country Garden, but from a general sense, it can be said to be a huge corporate group. This corporate group called Soho China made an interim announcement of its corporate performance in August. It seems that the tax authorities have notified a company called Beijing Trading Soho, a company affiliated with Soho China, to pay 1.733 billion yuan in taxes by September 1, 2022. If you do not pay, you will be charged a delinquent tax of 0.05% per day. On the other hand, it seems that 30.6 million yuan was paid by June 30 this year. This is not enough at all. It turned out that about 2 billion yuan was left unpaid, including unpaid taxes and arrears. Soho China does not have enough cash to pay taxes, so we are negotiating with the authorities, but we are trying to solve this problem by selling the properties we have and paying the taxes. I wonder if the management of Soho China is okay, but the story continues. Soho China this year's enterprise performance has declined. Profits are down more than 90% year-on-year. If your profits are that low, you will inevitably run out of cash to pay your unpaid taxes. However, in the case of Soho China, profits have decreased by 90%, but Country Garden is in the red, so it may be better. The reason for this situation is that Soho China is famous for operating office buildings. The company name Soho comes from the initials of Smart Office and Home Office. The idea is that it would be convenient and comfortable to build a facility that combines office and residential areas in the same place. Among the numerous real estate developers, it is famous for companies that focus on the construction and operation of office buildings. In some cases, foreign architects have been commissioned to design the buildings, and the exterior of the building is very unique, making it a building that stands out in Beijing and Shanghai. I am in the business of renting out office buildings to companies and collecting rent from them, but recently the occupancy rate of my offices has been dropping significantly. The occupancy rate has dropped to 70% or even 50% in extreme cases. So profits have plummeted. Not only is China's real estate industry in bad shape, but companies that used to rent office space are slumping and are not returning to office buildings with high rents. Currently, there is a lot of discussion about what will happen to the Chinese economy, but some say that the damage is surprisingly shallow. Crushing the real estate bubble is the Xi Jinping administration's policy, so some people say that in a sense, what is happening is what the Xi Jinping administration intended. I think the Xi Jinping administration will stop bursting this bubble and say it has the means to revive the economy if it wants to, but the real estate industry is not the only thing that is doing poorly in China. Companies have not returned to office buildings at all, which means that sectors other than the real estate sector are also quite sluggish. Therefore, I do not think that the Chinese economy will revive if the Xi Jinping administration changes its policies. Soho China's business performance has deteriorated significantly because companies are not returning to office buildings. And now that they can't pay their taxes, people are paying attention to whether this will spread to other areas. The reason for this is the cross-default clause. Not only Chinese companies but also Japanese companies have contracts. Usually when you borrow money, you agree on when you will pay it back at the time of the contract. For example, let's say you have a contract to return the loan after 1 year. This is the right to not have to pay back the money for 1 year. This can be called profit. In legal terminology, this is called the benefit of time. However, the benefits of this period may disappear. This is a clause that is almost always included in the contract when taking out a mortgage or other debt. For example, if a person who borrows money is subject to compulsory execution by another creditor, he or she cannot claim the benefit of time limit. Such a clause is included in the contract. As a person who lent money, if the debtor is subject to compulsory execution by another creditor, he or she may not be able to collect the money if the debtor does not collect the money quickly. Therefore, if a situation arises that puts the borrower's property at risk, an agreement is made that the lender can demand repayment of the money without waiting until the debt repayment deadline. This kind of arrangement is called a cross-default clause. This is the general consensus. In Japan, when you take out a loan to purchase something or borrow money, these clauses are included in the contract. These provisions also apply when Chinese companies borrow money. If there is a possibility that the assets of the company will be seized or subject to compulsory execution by the deadline for repaying the money, you can request the repayment of the money without waiting until the deadline, but this is due to tax liability, including late payment. If a person who borrows money is unable to pay taxes, there is a possibility that they will not be able to repay the debt. So in such a situation, you can request repayment of the money without waiting until the deadline. Since Soho China is in arrears with its taxes, the creditor who lent the money may demand that the money be returned immediately. Conditions are good. However, if all the creditors were to return the money all at once, Soho China, which cannot pay taxes, would not be able to return the money. If this happens, it will be considered a default and there is a possibility of compulsory execution. Assets can be seized and recovered, so if the creditor cannot pay the money, the assets owned by the company will be sold. Therefore, if a creditor finds themselves in a situation where they cannot repay their money, they can demand repayment without waiting until the deadline. Such risks have long been discussed in China. Lending and borrowing of money basically includes an agreement in which the benefit of term is lost. Therefore, if one creditor defaults, other creditors may demand their money back all at once. This is the same for other real estate developers. However, in reality, it is not very common for creditors to demand their money back all at once. This is also influenced by the uniqueness of China. If all creditors suddenly demanded their money back, the company would go bankrupt. I think it's probably suppressed by political power. For the Communist Party, companies are objects of exploitation, but if a company goes bankrupt, there is nothing they can take from it, so they do not let it survive or kill it. Creditor movements that would cause a company to go bankrupt are likely to be politically checked. What is currently being said is that the company will continue to exist by selling off some of Soho China's assets and paying taxes. The boss of this company is hated in China. He donated the vast amount of money he earned in China to American universities. If a famous American university receives a large donation, it may admit the person involved. In fact, the son of the owner of this company went to Yale and Harvard. There was also an incident in which one of his sons was issued an arrest warrant or summons by the Chinese authorities for insulting a Chinese hero. The president of this company is not only famous as a businessman, but is also regarded as a traitor in China. That's all for now. See you next time.